Hello fellow collectors and welcome to Long's Toys. Today we are taking a look at Deluxe class Predacon Skorponok from Transformers Kingdom War for Cybertron Trilogy. I'm assuming they're calling it Predacon Skorponok to differentiate it from the Headmaster Skorponok, since we know they already own the copyright to that name. So it's not like they have to put Autobot or whatever in front of it because they don't have the copyright to it. But in any case, box art, very, very cool. Really like the robot mode and of course the Scorpion mode here on the front. On the side, you have that pretty much standard Kingdom, artwork that we have on the side of every box. Got the Predacon symbol up here. Not too much going on the bottom. And then on the back, we have that kind of cave painting motif going on here for the robot mode and the Scorpion mode. So that's pretty neat. He does come with the bee. Gotta go for the bee. Gotta love that. Anyway, let's go ahead. Let's get him out of the box and let's take a closer look. So here he is out of the packaging. And I will say right off the bat, he feels very tiny. He's a squat little dude. Just for reference, here is Trax that we took a look at the other day. Both deluxes. And he's at least a head taller. Like his head comes to about the top of his chest. So I don't really know why he's so small. But he's definitely a squat little dude. It almost kind of feels like there's a part missing. Like he's got such a large abdomen. And then this tiny little waist, it feels like this should have tapered down a little bit more, or there's like they took a piece out and that's why he's so short. I don't know. He does have a lot of the scorpion legs, well, really all of the scorpion legs, just kind of tucked on the back here. I'm also not a huge fan of that. I know there's not really much they can do with them. I feel like the day they can figure out a way to completely hide the, scorpion legs in the body somehow, that's going to be like your masterpiece Skorponok. I don't really know what else to do with those scorpion legs. I don't love them. I don't hate them. At least they tuck back far enough that it doesn't really get in the way of any articulation, which is nice. Speaking of which, let's go ahead and take a look at the articulation. Well, you know what? Let's take a look at the head sculpt real quick. I think it looks pretty good. I think they did a pretty nice job with this guy. And I don't really remember what his color scheme was like on the show. I'm assuming this was meant to mimic his color scheme on the show. I remember the toy, which was definitely like all black, except for the legs that were red. But I think on the show, he was more like this color scheme. He's only on the show for season 1. Spoilers if you haven't seen Beast Wars from 25 years ago. So I don't remember him very much on the show, because he's not on it for a long time. But I think this was his color scheme on the show. But anyway, head sculpt looks good. It is on a ball joint, side to side, no problem. You have a little bit of up and down, no problem there. You have a swivel here in the shoulder. You have a hinge out to the side. You have a bicep swivel 90 degrees in the elbow. You also have a swivel at the wrist, which is nice because the original toy, the claws were kind of locked. But this way you can kind of turn them to the side so that they're more like pincer claws like he had on the show. You could actually kind of grab things with it. You can also see inside there, we got the bee. I'm really a fan of how they decided to do this. I think he looks pretty good. He's very tiny. But you can see he's painted pretty nicely. He's got the nice red eyes. He's got the wings here. And the way the original toy worked was it was kind of a spring-loaded transformation gimmick. So the upper part of his claw, there was like a firing mechanism. It popped off and then it like spring transformed into the bee. And it looked okay. But the problem is when you did that, he only had the bottom part of his claw. Why can't I? There you go. Peg that back in. So this way you can actually deploy the bee and still have the full pincer claw, so it doesn't look ridiculous with just the bottom part. So I like that a lot. Over here, he's got the missiles, just like on the show and the original toy. Now, the original toy had spring-loaded missiles, and I think when you opened the pincers all the way, they would fire. And I'm glad they didn't do that because I don't really need spring-loaded gimmicks. I'm not a huge fan of spring-loaded gimmicks. And when they're just in here, they look perfectly fine. But when you take them out, I don't know, it's a little lackluster as far as these tiny little missiles. So to actually like shoot them out and fire them, they kind of look lame. But if you're just going to leave them in here just for the illusion that there's larger missiles locked inside there, I think it works. So as a prop, it works. As believable missiles, not so much. If that makes sense. I mean, it sounds dumb to say it like that, but I think you guys know what I mean. Anyway, so moving on, you do have a waist swivel, but this tail piece in the back kind of gets in the way, so you kind of have to push that all the way back, and then you can get a little bit of movement there. You have a hinge out to the side for the hips, as well as kick forward. You do have a thigh swivel. You have, I would say, a little bit over 90 degrees in the knee, and then the ankles are a little strange. You do have a tilt, no problem, and then you have back and forth movement, but it's kind of funny. So over here, this gray piece on this toe does not move. That is built in to the ankle piece. So you can move the foot like ankle here, but on this one, you get the full rotation. Now, I believe that's because of the way this transforms, and I'll show that off later. So you have full ankle tilt and rotation on this side, but on this side, it's just the front part. So a little weird, but it works. You have the tail kind of moving around over here. You have some movement here. There's a ball joint here for the stinger. So that just kind of hangs there on the back. So he looks good. I think the color scheme's good. He's definitely a little short, and I think that's weird. I don't know why he's so squat. I feel like they could have made him a little bigger, but it is what it is. I like the scorpion tail. I like the head sculpt. I like the color scheme. I think the articulation's good. I'm generally happy with how they handled the pincer claws and the accessories within. But let's go ahead and let's get on to the transformation because it's wild. Alright, so you can leave the accessories in the claws. That's not going to make a difference. Come over here to the back, and the first thing we kind of have to do is just kind of bring out all the legs. So I like to kind of just tilt these up a little bit. You're not really supposed to yet, but just gets them out of the way a little bit. So you just kind of swivel these all around. They're all on little ball joints, just to kind of get these all out of the way. You can't really, like, there's a hinge here as well. It's going to bring them forward. Can't really do that yet. But just swivel these all around. So we have our legs in position. You're going to come over here to the torso. This is going to split open, but only about that far. It doesn't open all the way because, you know, these shoulders and things all get in the way. You're going to drop the head down to about there. Doesn't rotate all the way into the chest, just stops there, and these stay open. So that's weird, but we'll get there. At this point, you can go ahead and pop these all the way up, and then you can bring these down and just kind of, you know, bend this at the waist, at the elbows, and then you'll have the claws kind of in position like so. At this point, you can drop these down if you want, and just kind of move the legs around like so. This is going to lift up, and the scorpion head is underneath here. Now, this is kind of difficult to flip out of here, and I usually have to get like my tweezers or something to kind of flip this out. And there's very tight clearance issues. You really have to kind of sneak this guy out, and then you can close this back down like so. Then you're going to come down here to the legs. So you have to spin this 90 degrees. You're going to take this whole section here, and that kind of accordions out. You can see it. There was a joint here where this was kind of folded in. So once you do that, you have to, this goes like this, and you just leave the leg straight like that, completely, the ankle folded all the way down. This goes up like this, I believe. This comes down. This spins around at the thigh swivel. This goes up. And then this little part that sticks out fits into this little hole right here. So you just kind of have to get this down here. And then this is going to pop. And then you kind of tuck the foot underneath into the tail. Like so. There we go. So that's just kind of all tucked into the back of the tail like that. And then this folds down and then just rests along there. It almost looks like that's supposed to tuck underneath there. And it almost looks like there's a spot to do so. But I don't think it actually does. So you just kind of leave it there like that. But yeah, so there is the scorpion mode. Then we just play with the legs and kind of get this into a configuration that we like. And there we go. There is the scorpion. So here's the scorpion. I don't love it. I don't hate it. Here's the deal. For me, the biggest problem is the head. The head is too small, and because it sits on top of these giant shoulder pads, it just looks like it's too far back. Like if they could have done something so that this section here could have rotated forward and sat on top of the shoulders and covered them, and then the head was kind of down here in the front, I think that would have worked a lot better. It's the fact that the shoulder pads just kind of get in the way and make the head look too small by comparison, and I think that's really the issue. If they all they would have had to do was kind of bring this section forward and have this part of his abdomen cover the shoulder pads and then have the head have its own space, then I think the size would have been fine. I think it's just the fact that it rests on the shoulder pads. That's why it just looks a little off, in my opinion. The scorpion legs are fine, I think. They did a fine job with that. The way the robot legs tuck underneath is kind of interesting. I don't love that the chest is always open. You can still kind of see the head. So, I don't know. He's not perfect. He's very kind of meh for me. He's not the worst Scorpion mode I've seen, but, you know, it's better than having like the Scorpion head on the back of the feet like the original toy did. So, I don't know. It's an interesting transformation to say the least, but I think, you know, you have the bulge right up here and you have some movement here for the tail. Now, unfortunately, you can't really move this much of the tail because it's connected to the leg, but you can move this part and this, which, you know, it's not really going. Like the original toy had a gimmick where like the whole tail would come forward and sting in between his claws, which was kind of neat. Obviously, there's no gimmicks on this, but you can't even really move this part of the tail because the foot's kind of connected into it, so you can only move from here, and you can't really reach or sting anything unless they land conveniently in this area. So it is what it is, but it's an okay Scorpion mode. It's not the best, certainly not the best. I don't think it's the worst. It's just kind of meh. Honestly, Skorponok is okay. He's not great. He's not terrible. He's very middle of the road for me. I don't know. He's very small. I just don't understand why that was done. I'm assuming it has something to do with the legs had to be a certain length to fit into the tail for the transformation. But he's just very squat, and it makes him look tiny and fat, and it's a weird look for him. Because it's been a while since I've seen Beast Wars, but I feel like he was kind of medium to high as far as height goes among the Predacons. Like, he wasn't the tallest, but he was in that kind of middle to high range for height. Maybe I'm misremembering that. Like I said, it's been a minute. And I kind of remember the colors being more bluish than purple. But again, I could be misremembering that as well. But overall, you know, these colors are okay. The articulation's good. The claws are great. I love that he has the swivel at the claw, so that way you can have it move around and actually use them as pincer claws, because I'm pretty sure the original toy could only go up and down. The tail's okay. Works a little bit better in the robot mode. Very limited articulation for the tail in the Scorpion mode because of the way those legs kind of lock the majority of the tail in place. Having to just kind of cram all those Scorpion legs on the back, I get it. You know, it's been 25 years. They still haven't really cracked that when it comes to arachnids and insects, or where to hide the mandibles and the legs. You know, they just kind of have to hide them somewhere. But yeah, I mean, like I said, he's not the worst. I just don't understand. Like, the original toy was in the Voyager size class, or whatever Voyager was called back then, and they decided to cram him into a Deluxe size class this time around. I was kind of surprised when I heard he was going to be a Deluxe, because I feel like he would have benefited from being a little bit bigger. They could have made the proportions work a little bit better. I don't know. I just think he would have benefited from being a Voyager class instead of a Deluxe. I think they could have done a little bit better with that. What else do I like? I like how they did the bee and the missiles. I think that works. They took all the spring-loaded gimmicks out. Well, you know, the original had them, and they're obviously not here. I appreciate that. You know, you can use the bee without having to transform part of his claw, which is nice. I still think the missiles, like, they look okay like this, but when you actually pull them out, they're kind of dinky and weird. So, I don't know. Like, obviously, with the rest of this, you know, Wave 3, even as the Deluxes go, I think Trax is the best. I haven't gotten my hands on the Pterodactyl yet. Forget what his name is, Wingdings or Wing Things. I forget what his name is, but the skeletal pterodactyl fossilizer. So yeah, I don't know where this guy's gonna fall as far as I don't know if he's my least favorite. He may end up being. I don't know. Out of the three, we'll have to wait and see. But he's okay. I think he's worth picking up still, because I think he's an improvement over the original toy, and you don't get a lot of, you know, Predacon Skorponok toys as it is. But I definitely think he would have benefited from being a Voyager instead of a Deluxe. But it is what it is. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Please like, share, and subscribe. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. And as always, thanks so much for watching.